everybody. This is Francesco Abbruzzino, and we're going to be conducting an interview today with Dina Rae, and she's here to talk about her new book, which involves Big Pharma. And let me just get to this page. Here we go. Dina, how are you doing today?
Great, thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit, I'm on your blog, and that's going to show on the screen as we're talking. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your new book, and we'll go ahead and talk about some of this stuff. I see you got ISIS, Big Pharma, all kinds of interesting subject matter on there.
Well, I'm just a regular person. I'm married. I got 2 kids in high school, 2 dogs. I pay my bills through teaching and coaching. Writing's been a passion of mine, and I've written 4 novels, and this is my first nonfiction book. It's called Big Pharma, Big Agri, Big Conspiracy. I'm somewhat of a conspiracy buff. I particularly believe in New World Order theory, and it seems like many of the other conspiracies out there all point in that same direction. It's kind of like the granddaddy of conspiracies, and it filters down through just about everything.
I've been a big fan of that term, the conspiracy theory, because I get that all the time, and people think I'm a kook. But it looks like, and I'm looking at your information here on your website about Big Pharma, it looks like accurate information. It looks like information, a lot of which I covered in a rant I did the other day. So why don't we go into that a little bit? Where did you get this information? Is it pretty factual? And should people consider you the conspiracy theory nut job, or should they say, hey, maybe there's something to this, and maybe she's got all these facts. There's something wrong here.
Well, again, I am an academic for a living, so I wouldn't just write something that I'm getting on these crackpot websites. I tried to cite my sources the best that I could. A lot of my sources are hyperlinked throughout the book, and they include U.S. News Today, New York Times, Time Magazine. Then some of them contain other new websites such as Natural News. Every now and then maybe an Alex Jones soundbite, who he's in the conspiracy world. And then a lot of my other sources were just general sources that I picked things up on. And I'd like, especially I like the Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett. And I like The World Needs More Rebels with Kevin Bull. And, it's just a very eclectic mix of resources.
Right. Well, now tell us a little bit about the Big Pharma. Why should someone go in and purchase your book? And you said it's hyperlinked. Is it an ebook, or is it a paperback too, or just ebook?
It's an ebook, and the paperback will be out the paperback, will be out in a couple weeks.
Now, why should someone purchase this book? And does it also touch on Monsanto? Because I'm looking on your page, and I see a section below that's Monsanto, or is that a separate book?
No, I put the table of contents, so you get an idea of what's in the book. And yes, Monsanto would fall under Big Agri, definitely. They are the biggest, and then there's DuPont and Syngenta too, which are getting bigger and bigger. And they take care of the food industry through genetically modified organisms. And then it's also about Big Pharma, which, to be considered a big pharmaceutical company, you have to sell $3 billion a year or more in sales. And it was originally supposed to be about Big Pharma, but Big Agri kept crossing paths with Big Pharma, so I had to include it. They both use the same sources. They both go through FDA.
Now you said something pre-show. Sorry for interrupting you. Where they only need to pass 2 tests, and I forget what the exact number of out of how many, and they'll get FDA approval. What is that all about? Because I that was surprising to me. I thought they would have to do something more extensive. They'd have to at least get 50% of the test to pass before the FDA would say and give them the blessing.
No, it could be 2 out of 2. It could be 2 out of 100. It could be 2 out of 1,000. And the FDA does see the negative results, but you only need 2 positive results, and they get an approval. Now, are those
negative results out there for the public to see? If we ever, no. See, that's something's wrong with that. When you say,
yeah. Oh, definitely. And if you look at who's in the FDA, it's their own people. So basically, they're going to the FDA for approval, but the very people who sit on the FDA are people who worked for them. And then when they're done with their term in FDA, they go back to Monsanto and make millions of dollars.
So, well, let me ask you this. A lot of people, and I was talking to an individual yesterday about Monsanto, and I told him how I went out to a protest here in Venice, and I helped, put the word out there. Maybe 20 people showed up out of 20 people out of a city of 20,000, and if you look at the surrounding area, 50,000. So it was a little discouraging. How do you get the message out there? A lot of people will sit there and say, well, the GMO, maybe it's necessary because our food supply is dwindling, and Monsanto's actually out there helping us by injecting all this GMO and the pesticides and all that good Roundup into the foods. And so what do you have to say on that?
Well, I think a lot of people, they've heard of GMOs, they vaguely heard of Big Pharma, Big Agri. They know Monsanto has something to do with farming, but they're very busy with their lives and they don't really have time to keep up with this. And Lord knows the mainstream media isn't helping us out. So my book is just kind of like an introductory to what all of this is. And I think if people understood what's going on, they might be more apt to participate in protests and what have you.
Isn't that one of the biggest challenges out there, is getting people to become more aware? And it's how do you get through that? I mean, to me that seems like the most difficult thing, is trying to bring about the awareness and affect some change, but people just don't. They want to see what's happening on these reality TV shows, and they don't really care what's going in their food as long as they're able to eat.
Right. I agree. I mean, TV is such garbage, and then again, if you watch just your local news channel, they've got all these cutesy stories, and then if it rains, the whole weather is dominated by the fact that it's raining or it's snowing. Let's get some real journalism going here, and even the news 24-hour news channels like CNN and Fox News, they keep you in the dark about all of this too. So I just think if people understood what this stuff was and how it affects them, it would be to their benefit, and especially with Obamacare and everything. I mean, the whole health industry is just out of control, and there's reasons why.
Well, one thing I've learned through my research for my RAMP book was, and it was a little discouraging, is the fact that a lot of these big pharma companies start at the medical school level. They start conditioning these people to accept certain drugs, and then it just continues on as they go in and they start their internships and they become doctors, and they're getting this money. They're on the boards of the big pharma, and I didn't realize. That's basically it. They're taught in medical school, hey, this is a great drug, and they don't really look at anything else. They go with what this professor's saying, who might be on the board of some big pharma company.
Right. Well, it all started with Nelson Rockefeller. He's the one who got big pharma, so to speak, before big pharma was big pharma. He's the one who, through his grants and his, philanthropical grants and everything, he's the one who got this whole thing going. I mean, he would give universities money, and in return, he'd put people, his own people, on the board to oversee the grant. So the studies of the medicine would always come out in his favor. And that whole way of doing business kind of has escalated to a whole new level now. And in turn, there was a law in 1980 that kind of really set the stage for, it was called Bayh-Dole Act, and it set the stage for medical schools to basically go in business with Big Pharma. So if a doctor or somebody in medical school invents some kind of new drug, well, they can license that out to the pharmaceutical company that's paying for the grant for the research, and in turn, the two of them together want the drug to succeed, so they're going to not look at the harmful aspects and just go for the positive aspects, and then market the drug and sell the drug and make a lot of money.
That's one of the reasons I like doing this show or running some of my national pages, because you read all this news and you learn new things. Like, I didn't know that, what you just told me. But what, with your book, the Big Pharma and Big Agri, Big Conspiracy, what do you hope anybody that reads it comes away with out of it?
Just a basic understanding that I mean, my mother, for example, to her doctor is, secondary to God, and whatever he says goes. And I mean, we've got this thing called Google. It's really not that much effort to, make sure what somebody's telling you is true. You can. If someone puts you on a drug, well, Google that drug. It might have a black box warning. People might have died off of it. Don't just blindly trust your doctor for everything. Realize that these drugs are meant to make somebody first and foremost money. They're not meant to help you out. They are first and foremost a moneymaker. They are profits. And I don't think people get a handle on that. They seem to think that doctors and pharmaceuticals are all, for the good of mankind. Well, they're not. They're like every other product. They're there to make money. And on the other side of the coin, with the food industry, the GMO is getting out of control. I think 70 to 90% of our crops are soy. 90% of U.S. crops, our corn, are all GMOs. So, you got to kind of wonder, we've got autism going through the roof. We've got ADD, which some people don't even think is a real disease, but we've got ADD, we've got autism, we've got allergies. What's up with, when I was growing up, nobody was allergic to anything. And nowadays, you've got half the class is allergic to something.
Yep. And one of the biggest things I noticed was when I was over in Italy, and I was in southern Italy for a while, living around my sisters and that. And I came back here, and I noticed such a difference when you eat down in southern Italy. It's all organic, basically. They don't call it organic, but that's what it is. And you come back here, and just the way your body adjusts and you put on more weight. I was eating like crazy there, but I was losing weight because I was eating fresh, healthy food versus a lot of the GMO crap that we get here in the U.S. And it was, to me, it was an eye-opener. Now, what do you think we need to do for the United States to be a little bit more like a country like Russia? I read on and on about Russia just wants Monsanto out of there. They want GMOs out of there. And many countries are doing this, but the United States isn't. And all I can think is, are the politicians padding their pockets by Big Pharma? Because I know they're paying the lobbyists, but I just don't understand why our politicians aren't more active on this issue.
Well, Frankie, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not just Russia, China. Everyone rips on China, how awful their food is and their food standards, and it's filled with lead and mercury and blah, blah, blah about China. Well, China, on the flip side, doesn't want any GMOs. They have a very small percentage of GMO crops in their country. And, what do they have, like 1.5 billion people? You would think that they'd want the most crop they could get for food. No, they don't want any GMOs. So why do they have these standards and we don't? On a side note, now summer's the season, and my kids are always, getting some kind of drink when they go play sports or whatever. Well, I don't want any Gatorade in my house. Not to complain about Gatorade, but Gatorade has an ingredient called bromine in it, which is used to preserve dead bodies, which is used as a fire retardant for furniture. Obviously, I don't think this is too good for you. Well, Europe refuses to sell the United States recipe for Gatorade. But you know what Gatorade does for them? They change their whole entire recipe and they get rid of the bromine, and it makes the drink look a little bit more cloudy. And the Europeans are fine with that. Now, why is it okay for the United States people to drink this drink with bromine, but it's not okay for Europeans? Again, I mean, what kind of payola thing is going on here? And I could rant all day about aspartame and how that came about in diet drinks. I mean, the regular soda is actually better for you with all of the sugar than the diet soda.
Yep. And some other stuff I noticed that you hit on your book. I'm looking at your chapters now. You hit on the organics, natural remedies, which is great. The rise of antidepressants, which it drives me crazy that people will go to the doctor now and they just say, here's a pill, and they don't want to analyze you. They don't want to see what the root of the problem is. They just want to shove these pills down your mouth. Medical bills. I actually own a medical consulting company. That's where it pays my bills. And I know the whole medical bill thing. And vaccines, and I'm huge. I actually did the religious waiver for my daughters. And, I got the school saying you shouldn't do it. And, we had to go down to Northport to the health department, and they gave us a paper, and they said, go home and think on it first. And we're like, we want to do it. And we had to go back there, and they make it so difficult, but some great stuff that you're covering in the book. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Go.
I wish I would have known you before I wrote it, because I would have interviewed you about the behind the scenes healthcare billing.
I can tell you some stories there. Now, we got a couple more seconds. I didn't know if you wanted to hit on. I noticed yesterday you put out this blog about ISIS, and I don't think what drives me crazy is I saw that Obama just is trying to get more funding for the rebels in Syria, which are basically tied, and in some way, they are ISIS in many ways. In other ways, they're groups associated with ISIS, however you want to pronounce it. And he's basically been funding these guys, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the United States, against trying to throw Assad out. And now they're responsible basically for what's going on in Iraq. And he's just sitting back not wanting to take any action on it. And it just amazes me because I went on bitching left and right about the Ukraine situation, how we funded that, how we were caught on tape conspiring, putting in a puppet government. Yet we're trying to make Russia look like the bad guy when it's all United States brought it all on.
And what do we got going in Ukraine? We've got Chevron.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And over in Iran, you have that Arabic pipeline.
Yeah. It's so funny how, it's so funny how they publicly create this persona of the new age bad guy. The new age bad guy is whoever's standing in the way of our businesses. And I just think our army has become like a private army for other countries, for our businesses, basically. I mean, our army isn't defending anything. They're defending businesses.
It is amazing how much big business basically directs what we're going to do with our foreign policy, our domestic policy. And I never realized it until I started dissecting through it. And a lot of times it's right there in our face, but we listen to Obama say, oh, no, we had nothing to do with it. Or Bush, oh, hey, we got to do this for your safety. And we buy into it instead of just dissecting it and seeing what's really happening, the underlying beast there.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And again, all of this is, in my opinion, meant to unravel our nation's boundaries to set up the world for New World Order. And, we've got this whole, thing in I'm in Texas right now. We've got, I'm sure you've heard on the news with all of these kids coming over the border, and nobody's enforcing these border laws.
And going on that.
Well, why is that? Why? Because pretty soon there's not going to be a United States. There's not going to be a Mexico. There's just going to be a North America. I mean, that's the only reason I can think of. Why else would this be tolerated? And on this whole Iraq thing, I'm starting to get the sense that a new world, they want a one world government. We've got the UN getting more and more into our lives, and I could go on all day about it, but I know you're pressed for time.
But you're great to talk to, and I'd love to have you on whenever you want to contact me about talking about any of these issues. I'd love to have you on, because I could go on all day about big pharma, about about country building, and all this great stuff. Now, where should people go? While we've been talking, I've been on the Dina Rae Right Stuff blog, and I've been on your Amazon, Big Pharma, Big Agri. If you guys Google that on Amazon, want to go ahead and give your website. It will be on the banner, and people will see it. And I went ahead to your Facebook too. We were on there a little bit while you were talking, so I'll put all those links within my video that I put out later. Okay.
Oh, great. Well, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Halo of the Damned. No spaces. I like Twitter. I follow back. You can like my fan page. Appreciate that, of course. That's Dina Rae Books. I've got my website, which is dinarae.co, and it would have been .com, but there's a singer called Dina Rae who works with Eminem.
Oh, really?
And she got dinarae.com. So I took the dinarae.co website, and we've had a brief banter back and forth about our names. And DinaRae.co will have my book up very shortly. I haven't had the time to update my website. And then my blog, which I post about 1 or 2 or 3 times a week. Nothing completely formal. Maybe you'll be a guest, Frankie. I'd appreciate if you were my guest. I like to have guests. I like to review books. I review movies. I'll do my own rants. Short. Everything's always short. It's nothing long. It's just kind of a fun blog that's getting pretty popular. And I'm also on Pinterest too.
All right. Well, it's been great talking to you. Hopefully hopefully we'll sell some books for you. What is it? It says on $3.99 on Amazon. Is that right for the ebook? Okay. All right. So hopefully we'll get some traffic there, and I'd love to talk to you about any issues in the future. Just, you have my email. Feel free to shoot me an email. And if you'll hold on 1 second, I'm going to flip to another screen. I'll come back and talk to you. All right. Thanks, Dina.
Thanks.